What is going on, everybody? It is Alex coming back at you with another video, and today we are actually doing a discussion. So, a little bit of a break from our record prediction videos. We are doing a discussion over what Cam Newton brings to the New England Patriots. So, it's kind of irritating that this comes after I've already done my initial predictions for the majority of the NFL. So, before the season starts, we will be doing another one of these record predictions videos, countering in Cam because if we're going to be honest, I don't think he's just there to compete. I think he's there to take the job. I think he's there to because it's a base minimum contract with incentives, and I think that's the biggest key. I think he wants to make those incentives. He wouldn't sign a deal if he's working for dirt cheap. So I think that he has a lot of potential, and we are going to discuss further in this video what it actually means for both Cam Newton and the Patriots about what this move actually brings. So, starting off, let's discuss the Patriots before Cam Newton came. As of yesterday, around 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, um, the Patriots were a pretty interesting scenario. They have always, and I mean always, been in the Super Bowl picture with Tom Brady at the helm. Like, he's just been that amazing game manager at the beginning of his career and then just took that step up as time went on. He developed that clutch factor, and he just was able to put balls places where the majority of quarterbacks in the NFL could not at a very consistent rate, which is why he's kind of considered the GOAT. So that's pretty much that. He was really, like, he and that defense were the main contributing factors that made the New England Patriots such a dominant force. So, if we're going to be honest, guys, losing Tom Brady was a major factor in making this season such a unique season. Because not only did they lose Tom Brady, because they replaced him with Jarrett Stidham, who, like, he was in and threw 4 passes and threw a pick six to Jamal Adams and got yanked, if I'm not mistaken. Like, they didn't just have Jarrett Stidham. They lost 7 players on their defense, 7 starters, not just 7 players, 7 starters. So they kind of lost their captain of their team with Tom, as well as a good portion of the defense. Not key pieces like Devin McCourty and then Stephon Gilmore. So they still have their cornerstones, but they lost a good chunk of that defense that was making them very elite and made them be able to go on a playoff run before they got beaten by the freaking Titans. I mean, cheers to the Titans. But now that they have Cam Newton, this is kind of weird to predict because we haven't seen Cam Newton in a bit of time. That's the thing. And Cam Newton has dealt with these injuries for a very long period of time. He's been injured quite often. And it's unfortunate because, I mean, the last season that we saw him, like, where he was actually pretty healthy, with Norv Turner, I think he had 71% completion percentage, and it's like that's a big change from the, like, sub 55% that we normally see from Cam Newton. Cam Newton just usually isn't that type of guy where he can put every ball right on the dime. He's more just of an X factor game manager. So it's interesting to think about. And, like, the big thing for me is thinking about how Josh McDaniels is going to be able to incorporate an offense that has like the ability of Cam Newton maximized. Because the question is, do you want to run him? Yeah, I mean, that's a big part of Super Cam. But do you want to run him and injure him? No. So the question is, do you want to bring on more linemen so it's a more obvious run, so there's more protection? Or do you want the ability for Cam to scramble so he could possibly just slide and not get hit? So there's a lot of things that I'm very curious about, and I think that, honestly, that is more of a determining factor in how the season will play out than the health of Cam Newton. If Josh McDaniels cannot maximize Newton's potential, I mean, if you use Brady as like, put him into Baltimore's offense where you have, like, quarterback RPOs and shit, it ain't gonna work. So if you have Cam Newton, you stick him into, like, a pocket passer situation like they've had for Tom for so long, it's not gonna be perfect scenario, and like, Cam's gonna look like his ass. Cam's never been a pocket passer. And, like, yes, he has these issues with injuries like his ankle, his shoulder, things that can limit him in terms of what you can do. But at the same time, you just have to take extra precautions, and you have to tell Cam you cannot fucking run through every single person. And I know he wants to. He may shy away from contact sometimes. Super Bowl. But at the same time, like, he is literally 6'6", 250 pounds. You just can't not allow him to go through people. So it's just a weird way of balancing his skills to make it the best potential possible. So, again, that is the biggest key for me, even more than his health. Because I think Cam's had time to rest. And then, if I'm not mistaken, a former coach of Cam Newton, I think it might have been North Turner, he said to Bill Belichick, he was like, dude, literally, like, these are injuries he can get over. So I'm sure that Belichick wouldn't do anything rash without, like, any actual confidence in, like, oh, maybe he could get over these injuries. Because there's no reason in taking up a spot on the roster, like, when you kind of have ass at a lot of positions, like, where you can, like, you need to have maybe that position to have a developmental player to where they can actually, like, play in the future. But also, like, that's cap money, man. I mean, I know it's a bare minimum contract, bare bones contract with incentives, but still, it's like, that's money that could be going somewhere else. So I don't think that Belichick did this out of, like, oh, maybe I should sign him. It's no, he felt confident in this, and there's something I'm very curious about. Now, Stephen A said that they're a top 3 team in the AFC now. That's complete bullshit. Okay, like, Stephen A doesn't know what the hell he's talking about 3/4 of the time. He's an internet personality. Love to hear him, like, talk, but I mean, there's a reason why Joe Rogan got so pissy at Stephen A for, like, talking, because Stephen A likes to talk, even if he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. So right now, Stephen A is opening his mouth and has absolutely no idea what the fuck he's talking about. Cam Newton literally hasn't played in about a year, and it's like he's been putting in a lot of fucking work. Cheers to him. I mean, he posts the most out of everybody about his work. So, I mean, he also needs to learn how to type in a different fucking font, but that's just whatever. Like, he's putting in the work, but at the same time, he hasn't been taking hits. He hasn't been, like, doing everything that a quarterback needs to do. I don't know if he's been doing it in pads, but, like, he's rusty. It's a different thing when you're practicing with Odell Beckham Jr. versus when you're in a live game scenario having to deal with offensive line, like, fucking up on, like, the left side, and then seeing, like, oh, maybe the safety dropped here. It's a whole entire different game. So I think that what this means is that Stidham is going to actually start during the year. I think he's going to actually start during the preseason, so Cam can get the reps with the backup dudes, so he can get accustomed to the game. I think that's going to be the key thing for New England here, is that they're going to need to ease Cam into this. Now, I don't know if they're a playoff team with Cam Newton. If Cam reaches the way he was with Norv Turner, because McDaniel's an amazing offensive coordinator, I think that this New England team could definitely make the playoffs. You know, if Cam is well protected, which, I mean, I think they're shopping Shaq Mason right now, but if they don't shop him, like, they have him, David Andrews, they still have Isaiah Wynn too. I don't know if he got hurt last year again, but I mean, I haven't heard any, like, crap talk about Isaiah Wynn. I mean, he's still super young. I think he's like 23, 24. I mean, you got some tread on those tires, man. So, I mean, he doesn't have that much tread on the tires, so he's able to go. So, I mean, he has the protection. He doesn't have the weapons. You never know. N'Keal Harry could be a beast. He just might have sucked last year. I mean, that happens to people. Sometimes they just don't have a good start, and they can just develop into something great. I mean, Peyton Manning threw 28 picks his rookie year. Like, he kind of turned out to be amazing just because he sucked, kind of, his rookie year. Regardless, I mean, this team has a lot of potential. If Cam can reach the potential he was back in, like, 2018, 2017, and that's not 2015 Super Cam. This team is a playoff team. Now, the defense, it needs some help, but they have their cornerstone pieces, so I'm not too worried. I mean, they still have Dante Hightower, if I'm not mistaken, there. So, I mean, they have their captain of their defense, as well as McCourty, as well as Stephon Gilmore. I think those 3 pieces are requisite enough to hold up, even though Yeah, you lost 7 dudes. That's a big freaking deal. So I think that this team was playoff worthy. Now, how well do I think Cam could do? Again, super dependent on McDaniels. Super dependent. He doesn't have the weapons. He never really did. That's the thing. He had Greg Olsen. He had Jonathan Stewart. He had D'Angelo Williams. He had some pretty good weapons, but at the same time, they weren't like all-star wide receivers. So he had people around him that had talent, but not like he had Kelvin Benjamin, which I think that N'Keal Harry is kind of a perfect Kelvin Benjamin. So it kind of is a match made in heaven, even though Kelvin Benjamin kind of sucked. He also got really fat. It's kind of a problem. But I think that if N'Keal Harry takes a big step up and one of their tight ends that they drafted in the 4th round is able to end up being starter caliber, not like top 32, not like, he needs to be top 10. I'm saying top 32. And then Cam could just dink it down to him, like even an Ian Thomas grade, who is on Carolina, backup tight end. I think he's starter now. But, I mean, that would be perfectly fine. Perfectly fine. Give Cam something to check down to. He has Sony Michel. He has a requisite offensive line. And his defense is good enough to be able to hold off offenses for the time being. I think that he could have stat prediction. I think he can have 62% completion percentage. I think he will get 4,200 yards passing, 600 yards rushing, with 32 touchdowns passing, 6 touchdowns rushing, big rushing year, and then 17 interceptions. I think he needs to get. I think he'll have some time trying to get used to throwing again, and it's going to have a hard time. Even though they're going to ease him in, they still need to start him, and he's going to have to later in the season. The picks are going to go down, but I think he's going to average about a pick a game. So 32 touchdowns, 17 picks with 6 rushing touchdowns, 4,200 yards, 4,300 yards, and 600 rushing yards. That's a damn good season. He could be contending for MVP. That's what I'm saying. I don't think he is MVP caliber. Again, I'm saying if he is what he was before he got injured, which he's not probably. So realistically, he's probably around 3,000 yards, 15 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, with 400 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns. But I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt and say that the 4,200 yards, 32 touchdowns, 17 picks, 600 rushing yards, 6 touchdowns, that is a Cam that will show up. So, what does this mean for the Pats? They have hope. Jarrett Stidham's not the guy. He was an excuse to tank for Trevor. But Cam Newton, he gives them a little bit of hope. And I don't think that they're Super Bowl contenders necessarily. But if Cam is able to be a game manager and be able to add that running element, this team could be sneaky Super Bowl contender. I think that they'll be 6th or 7th seed in the AFC, making in that last spot. But I think that they could make a playoff run. Cam's done it before, the 15-1 team. So I think that maybe their record would be 9-7 or 10-6. That's 10-6 is probably the top that I'd ever give them. But it's a hell of a lot better than what they would have gotten if they just did Jarrett Stidham. So let me know what you guys think, man. This is a really interesting topic because we're going from Josh McDaniels having a pocket passer to a more run-heavy scheme, a more quarterback RPO style scheme. And then Cam Newton literally coming out of pretty much a quasi-retirement with all of his injuries to coming back and working for the best head coach ever, arguably. I think Tomlin's kind of up there, but I'm going to give the nod to Belichick here, which is going to be great for his development. So let me know what you guys think. Thank you guys again for watching. Hit that like button, subscribe, comment, do all that jazz, and I'll see you on the far side. Peace.